The silver ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star, its hull gleaming against the blue sky. Commander Zefak watched the planet grow larger through the viewing screen of the Serenity's edge. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced ease, adjusting their approach vector toward the designated landing site. "Another primitive world," muttered his second-in-command, Officer Krell. The reptilian alien scales shifted from green to yellow, showing his boredom. "How many does this make?" 50, 60? Zefak's tentacles twitched in what his species considered a shrug. "The Confederation requires all inhabited worlds to join eventually. These humans show promise for labor and resource extraction." The bridge crew of various alien species nodded in agreement. They had done this dance countless times before. Find a pre-FTL civilization, make contact, offer them membership in the Galactic Confederation, and gradually integrate them as junior partners. It was a smooth process that had worked for thousands of years across hundreds of worlds. The ship touched down in a field outside Geneva, Switzerland. The landing site had been chosen carefully after months of observation. The humans had been watching their ships in orbit for weeks now, trying to communicate through radio signals and mathematical sequences. It was almost cute how excited they seemed about first contact. Zefak adjusted his ceremonial robes and checked his translation device. The human languages were simple enough. Their computers had cracked most of them within days. He walked toward the exit ramp, followed by his diplomatic team. This would be routine. The doors opened with a soft hiss and Zefak stepped onto alien soil. A group of humans waited nearby, standing behind barriers that their military had set up. Most of the humans looked nervous and excited, pointing devices at his ship and speaking rapidly into communication equipment. A middle-aged human woman stepped forward. She was small compared to Zefak's towering frame, with dark hair and intelligent eyes behind metal-framed glasses. "Welcome to Earth," she said in clear, measured tones. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen, representing the United Nations First Contact Committee." Zefak activated his translator and spoke in his deep, resonant voice. "Greetings, Dr. Chen. I am Commander Zefak of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace to offer your species membership in our great alliance of worlds." The humans murmured among themselves excitedly. Dr. Chen maintained her composed expression, but Zefak noticed her eyes studying every detail of his appearance and equipment. Behind her, several humans in military uniforms watched with professional interest. "We are honored by your visit," Dr. Chen replied. "We have many questions about your confederation and what membership would entail." Over the following hours, Zefak and his team were escorted to a specially prepared facility where formal negotiations could begin. The humans had done their best to accommodate various alien physiologies, providing different atmospheric conditions and seating arrangements. It showed a level of consideration that Zefak found refreshing, though ultimately pointless given the predetermined outcome. The Confederation's offer was standard. Earth would gain access to basic galactic technology, medical knowledge, and trade opportunities. In exchange, they would provide raw materials, agricultural products, and labor. Humans would be allowed to colonize a few designated worlds under Confederation oversight. It was generous by galactic standards. Dr. Chen listened carefully to every word, occasionally asking for clarification. Her questions seemed reasonable at first. Inquiries about technology transfer, cultural preservation, and territorial boundaries. But as the day progressed, Zefak noticed something odd about her line of questioning. "What are the defensive capabilities of Confederation member worlds?" she asked during one session. "Defense is provided by the Confederation fleet," Zefak explained patiently. "Member worlds focus on their designated roles rather than military concerns." "I see. And what happens if a member world disagrees with Confederation policies?" "Disagreements are resolved through proper channels and mediation," Zefak said, his tone becoming slightly stiff. "The Confederation has maintained peace for over 10,000 years through established protocols." Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully and made notes on a primitive electronic device. Around the negotiation table, other human representatives listened intently. Zefak noticed how they seemed to focus more on matters of autonomy and defense than on the technological marvels being offered. During breaks in negotiations, Zefak observed the humans more closely. They moved with a purposeful energy that he found unusual. Most primitive species were either awed into submission or fearful when first encountering galactic civilization. These humans seemed almost analytical. He watched Dr. Chen speaking quietly with a military officer during one recess. Their body language suggested intense discussion rather than celebration. When she returned to the table, her questions became even more pointed. Commander Zefak, you mentioned that the Confederation has integrated hundreds of species. How many of those joined voluntarily versus under pressure? The question caught Zefak off guard. In all his years of first contact missions, no primitive species had ever asked that. All members benefit from Confederation guidance, he said carefully. The transition process is always in their best interests. That's not exactly what I asked, Dr. Chen observed quietly. That evening, as Zefak reviewed the day's proceedings in his quarters aboard the Serenity's Edge, he felt a growing unease. The humans were not reacting as expected. They asked too many questions about things that shouldn't concern a primitive species. Their focus on military matters and political autonomy suggested a suspicious nature that could complicate integration. Officer Krell entered his quarters, scales flickering orange with agitation. Commander, our surveillance teams report unusual activity around their military installations. What kind of activity? Increased communications traffic, personnel movements, and what appears to be equipment testing. They're also asking our technical teams very specific questions about our ship's defensive systems. Zefak's tentacles curled in thought. They're probably just curious about our technology. Perhaps. But our xenobiological analysis team has been reviewing their planetary observation data. There are some concerning patterns in human behavior that weren't included in the initial reports. Krell activated a holographic display showing various scenes from Earth's recent history. Images of human conflicts, technological development, and social organization flashed by. Look at their advancement rate, Krell pointed out. They've gone from basic metallurgy to spaceflight in just a few thousand years. Most species take 10 times longer. Rapid development isn't unusual for younger species, Zefak replied, though his voice lacked conviction. It's not just the speed, Commander. Look at how they adapt. Every time they encounter a new challenge or technology, they don't just learn to use it, they modify it, improve it, weaponize it. They took a tool for peaceful energy and made it into a planet-destroying weapon within decades. Zefak studied the data more carefully. The humans had indeed shown an unusual pattern of taking any new knowledge and pushing it to its absolute limits with frightening speed. Most concerning, Krell continued, is their approach to conflict. Other species fight until one side wins. Humans fight until they've learned everything they can from the experience, then apply those lessons to the next challenge. The commander dismissed his subordinate and spent the night reviewing Earth's history. What he saw troubled him deeply. These humans didn't just adapt to challenges. They evolved their entire society around overcoming them. They had fought each other for millennia, and each conflict had made them more effective, more organized, more dangerous. As dawn broke over the Earth facility, Zefak prepared for another day of negotiations. But now he wondered if the Confederation had made an error in their assessment. These humans might be primitive by galactic standards, but they were anything but predictable. Dr. Chen arrived at the negotiation table that morning with the same calm demeanor, but Zefak noticed something new in her eyes. It wasn't fear or wonder at galactic civilization. It was the look of someone who had spent the night planning. 3 months had passed since the first contact, and Regional Administrator Thex was growing tired of the humans' endless questions and demands. The pale, slug-like administrator reviewed the reports from Commander Zefak with increasing frustration. His office aboard the massive Confederation station orbiting Earth was filled with data screens showing the planet's activities. They want technological equality, Thex grumbled to his aide, a thin insectoid creature named Vix. They demand territorial autonomy. They refuse standard integration protocols. These humans are the most difficult species we've encountered in decades. Vix clicked his mandibles nervously. Perhaps we should consider some of their requests. The preliminary cultural analysis suggests they have an unusual attachment to independence. Nonsense. Thex waved a tentacled appendage dismissively. Every primitive species thinks they're special. They all want special treatment, but they always accept reality once we demonstrate Confederation superiority. The human delegation had been particularly troublesome during the last meeting. Dr. Sarah. Chen continued to ask pointed questions about Confederation military doctrine, economic policies, and member world autonomy, Her team of advisors took detailed notes on everything and requested technical specifications that were far beyond what junior members normally received. "Sir?" Vix interrupted his thoughts. "The humans have rejected our latest mining proposal for their asteroid belt." Thex's skin flushed purple with anger. The asteroid belt contained valuable minerals that the Confederation needed for ongoing construction projects. It was standard procedure to begin resource extraction during the integration period. No species had ever refused before. What was their reasoning? They claim sovereignty over their entire solar system and demand equal partnership in any mining operations. They want shared technology, joint command structure, and equal distribution of profits. Thex slammed a heavy appendage on his desk. Equal partnership? They barely have fusion power. They haven't even left their own planet permanently. But that wasn't entirely true anymore. In the 3 months since first contact, the humans had launched 17 new spacecraft. They claimed these were scientific missions, but Confederation sensors detected military-grade scanning equipment aboard several vessels. The humans were mapping their own solar system with suspicious thoroughness. "Administrator," Vix said carefully, "perhaps we should review the integration timeline. The humans are advancing faster than our projections indicated." Thex dismissed the concern with another wave. He had integrated 47 species during his career. Humans might be stubborn, but they would learn their place like all the others. "Open a channel to Earth," he commanded. "It's time to remind them who they're dealing with." Dr. Chen's face appeared on the main communication screen in the facility outside Geneva. Behind her, Thex could see human military personnel and scientists working at various stations. The level of activity seemed higher than usual. "Administrator Thex," Dr. Chen greeted him politely, "I hope you've reconsidered our proposals for mutual cooperation." "Dr. Chen, I'm afraid the Confederation cannot accommodate your unreasonable demands. You must understand that Earth is a junior member in this relationship. We will begin asteroid mining operations immediately under standard protocols." Dr. Chen's expression remained calm, but Thex noticed something in her eyes that he didn't like. "Administrator, we cannot agree to unilateral resource extraction in our solar system. Perhaps we could schedule another negotiation session to discuss alternatives." "There will be no more negotiations," Thex declared. "The Confederation will proceed as planned. To help you understand your position in galactic affairs, we will be implementing corrective guidance measures." "Corrective guidance?" "Your planet's communication satellites will be temporarily disabled. This will help your leaders focus on accepting Confederation authority, rather than pursuing unrealistic independence fantasies." Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice remained steady. "Administrator, I strongly advise against that course of action." Thex laughed, a bubbling sound that translated poorly through the communication system. "Dr. Chen, you're hardly in a position to give advice to a Confederation administrator. We've done this with hundreds of worlds. A brief demonstration of our capabilities always clarifies the situation." "I see," Dr. Chen said quietly. "Then I suppose we have nothing further to discuss at this time." The communication ended. Thex turned to his tactical officer, a heavily armored crustacean-like being. "Begin the satellite disruption. Standard 48-hour duration. That should be sufficient to convince them." "Yes, Administrator." Within minutes, every human communication satellite went dark. Earth's global internet, television broadcasts, and satellite communications ceased functioning. The planet was cut off from its own information network. Thex settled back in his command chair, satisfied. Every species reacted the same way to this demonstration. First came panic as their primitive leaders realized their helplessness, then desperate attempts to restore communication. Finally, complete capitulation and acceptance of Confederation terms. But as hours passed, something strange happened. Instead of the expected chaos, human activity seemed to decrease. Their radio transmissions stopped. Their spacecraft stopped broadcasting identification signals. Military installations went silent. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures from several locations on the planet's surface." "What kind of signatures?" "Unknown. The patterns don't match anything in our databases," Thex frowned. This wasn't how primitive species were supposed to react. "Launch reconnaissance drones. I want to know what they're doing down there." The drones launched and descended toward Earth's atmosphere. But as they approached the planet, something unexpected happened. Focused energy beams lanced up from the surface, destroying 3 drones immediately. The remaining drones registered massive electromagnetic interference before losing contact. What was that? Thex demanded. Unknown weapons technology, sir. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database of Earth capabilities. Vic scuttled over to Thex's chair, his compound eyes wide with concern. Administrator, perhaps the humans had more advanced technology than our initial surveys indicated. Impossible. We've been watching them for decades. They barely have coherent fusion technology. But even as Thex spoke, his confidence wavered. The tactical display showed something that shouldn't have been possible. Multiple human spacecraft were moving through the asteroid belt, but their engine signatures were completely different from anything Earth had demonstrated before. Sir, incoming transmission from Commander Zefak on the surface. Zefak's image appeared on screen. The commander looked shaken, his usually composed demeanor replaced by obvious concern. Administrator, we have a problem. The humans at the negotiation facility have disappeared. Disappeared? The entire facility has been evacuated. Our sensors detect no human life signs within 50 kilometers. But sir, there's something else. They left something behind. Zefak's image shifted to show a simple metal plate sitting on the negotiation table. Alien symbols were etched into its surface, symbols that matched Confederation mathematical notation. Can you read it? Thex asked. Yes, sir. It's a mathematical proof, but not just any proof. It's a complete analysis of our shield harmonics, weapon frequencies, and defensive capabilities. Sir, this proof shows that they've been studying our technology since the day we arrived. Thex stared at the plate in growing horror. That's impossible. Our technology is centuries beyond their understanding. Administrator, Vix whispered urgently, incoming sensor data from the mining fleet in the asteroid belt. The main screen switched to show the Confederation mining vessels that had been en route to begin operations. But they weren't alone. Sleek ships of unfamiliar design surrounded them, clearly of human origin, but incorporating technology that shouldn't exist. A new voice came over the communication system, speaking perfect Confederation standard. Confederation vessels, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are ordered to leave this solar system immediately. Defense fleet? Thex sputtered. They don't have a defense fleet. Administrator, the human voice continued. We tried to negotiate in good faith. You chose to demonstrate your technology instead. Now we'll demonstrate ours. The human ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Energy weapons that looked suspiciously like modified Confederation technology struck the mining vessel's shields. But instead of the random firing patterns typical of primitive species, the human attack was perfectly coordinated to exploit specific frequency weaknesses. Within minutes, the entire mining fleet was disabled and under human control. How? Thex whispered, staring at the tactical display. How did they learn to do that so quickly? Dr. Chen's face appeared on the communication screen again. She was no longer in the Earth facility but aboard one of the human ships. Administrator Thex, she said calmly. We tried to warn you. Humans learn very quickly when we're threatened. Your corrective guidance just taught us everything we needed to know about your technology. This is impossible, Thex insisted. No species adapts this fast. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos stood in the command center of the hastily constructed Earth Defense Station, watching dozens of holographic displays show human activity across the solar system. 2 weeks had passed since the Confederation's failed corrective guidance and Earth had transformed from a primitive world into something that defied every prediction in galactic databases. Colonel, called Technical Sergeant Kim Park from her workstation, the engineering teams have finished integrating the Confederation shield generators into our defensive grid. Maria nodded, still amazed at how quickly her species had adapted. The captured mining vessels hadn't just provided technology. They had given humanity a complete blueprint of Confederation engineering principles. Human scientists and engineers worked around the clock, not just copying alien technology but improving it in ways that should have been impossible. What's the status on the Mars facility? Maria asked. Operational as of yesterday. The fabrication units are producing hull plating at triple the rate of Confederation specifications. Dr. Yamamoto's team figured out how to optimize the molecular assembly process. Maria shook her head in amazement. 3 weeks ago, humanity's most advanced spacecraft was a fusion-powered research vessel. Now they were mass-producing ships that incorporated technology from a civilization thousands of years more advanced. But it wasn't just about copying technology. Humans had a talent that apparently no other species possessed. They instinctively understood how to combine different technologies in unexpected ways. Confederation energy weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat were miniaturized and mounted on human infantry armor. Alien sensor arrays were modified to work as communication networks that couldn't be jammed. Shield generators were reconfigured to create temporary force fields for construction projects. Colonel Santos, Dr. Chen's voice came through the communication system. We have an incoming Confederation supply vessel approaching the outer system. Single ship appears to be a standard cargo transport. Maria smiled grimly. This would be the perfect test of humanity's new capabilities. Scramble Intercept Squadron Alpha. Let's see how well our modifications work in practice. The Human Intercept Squadron launched from the hidden facility on Ceres. 6 sleek fighters, each one a hybrid of human engineering and Confederation technology, accelerated toward the unsuspecting cargo ship. The pilots were all volunteers from Earth's various air forces, but they had trained for weeks in simulators based on captured alien flight systems. Captain Jackson, leading the squadron, opened a communication channel to the cargo vessel. Confederation transport vessel, this is the Earth Defense Force. You will prepare to be boarded for inspection. The response came back in confused Confederation standard. Earth Defense Force? What is this? This system is under Confederation authority. Not anymore, Jackson replied. Cut your engines and prepare for boarding. The alien cargo ship tried to flee, but human fighters moved faster than anything the Confederation had encountered before. Human engineers had stripped out safety protocols and efficiency limiters from the alien engines, pushing them far beyond their original specifications. What the aliens considered maximum safe speed, humans treated as a starting point. The cargo ship's captain, a nervous trader named Zecht, found his vessel surrounded and disabled within minutes. As human boarding parties cut through his hull with modified Confederation cutting tools, he sent a panicked message to Regional Command. This is Cargo Transport 779. I'm being attacked by unknown vessels in the Sol system. The humans have military spacecraft. They have our technology. Back on Earth Defense Station, Maria listened to the intercepted transmission with satisfaction. Let the Confederation hear about this. Let them start to understand what they were dealing with. Dr. Chen joined Maria at the command center, carrying a datapad filled with intelligence reports. The captured cargo ship is a treasure trove of information. Navigation charts, communication protocols, trade routes. We now have a complete map of Confederation space. Excellent. What about our long-range scouts? Already en route to 12 different systems. If our analysis is correct, the Confederation has been suppressing technological development on dozens of member worlds. Many of those species might be interested in what we have to offer. This was perhaps humanity's greatest insight into galactic politics. The Confederation maintained control not through superior technology or military might, but through information control and technological dependence. They gave member species just enough advancement to make them dependent, but never enough to become independent. Humans approached the problem differently. Instead of hoarding technology, they shared it freely. Instead of creating dependence, they fostered innovation. The first human contact missions to other worlds weren't about conquest or trade. They were about teaching other species how to improve their own technology. Colonel, Sergeant Park called out urgently, we're detecting a massive hyperspace disturbance approaching the system. Multiple contacts, heavy cruiser class. Maria's expression hardened. How many? 12 ships, possibly more. It's a full Confederation battle group. Dr. Chen studied the tactical display. They're not coming to negotiate. The Confederation fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system in a classic intimidation formation. 12 heavy cruisers arranged in a sphere, with Admiral Corks's flagship Divine Authority at the center. It was a show of force designed to overwhelm primitive species and convince them to surrender without a fight. Admiral Corks, a massive crab-like being with natural armor plating, reviewed the intelligence reports from his command throne. These humans had somehow acquired Confederation technology and used it to capture mining vessels and cargo ships. It was unprecedented but not insurmountable. Communications, he ordered in his grinding voice. Open a channel to the planet Earth. Dr. Chen's image appeared on the main screen of the flagship. She was aboard a human vessel that Admiral Quarks didn't recognize from any Confederation-designed database. "Admiral Quarks," she said calmly. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, representing Earth's government. We need to discuss the current situation." "There is nothing to discuss," Quarks replied. "You have unlawfully appropriated Confederation property and attacked our vessels. You will surrender immediately and submit to occupation." "I'm afraid that's not possible, Admiral. We're prepared to defend our system." Quarks laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Dr. Chen, you face 12 heavy cruisers with the firepower to destroy entire continents. What could you possibly have that threatens this fleet?" The answer came from every direction at once. Human ships decloak around the Confederation fleet. Not just a few fighters, but dozens of vessels ranging from converted civilian transports to purpose-built warships. Each one incorporating captured Confederation technology, but modified with human innovations. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported in a shaking voice, "we're surrounded. I count 47 enemy vessels of unknown configuration." But the real shock came when the human weapons opened fire. Instead of the chaotic barrage expected from a primitive species, the human attack was perfectly coordinated. Each ship targeted specific systems on specific Confederation vessels. Shield generators were overloaded with precisely tuned energy bursts. Engine systems were disabled with surgical strikes. Command and control systems were jammed with interference patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Within minutes, half the Confederation fleet was disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. The humans had targeted their ships to capture them, not kill their crews. "Impossible," Quarks whispered, watching his mighty fleet reduced to helpless hulks. "How do they know our vulnerabilities so precisely?" Dr. Chen's image reappeared on his screen. "Admiral, we've been studying your technology for weeks. Human engineers are very good at finding ways to improve things, including ways to disable them." "This is not possible," Quarks insisted. "No species develops this capability so quickly." "Admiral Quarks, you made the same mistake that Administrator Thex made. You assumed that being primitive meant being weak. But humans have spent our entire history fighting against superior forces and finding ways to win. Did you really think we'd approach galactic civilization any differently?" As boarding parties of humans in advanced combat armor took control of his flagship, Admiral Quarks finally understood the magnitude of the Confederation's error. These humans weren't just another primitive species to be integrated. They were something entirely new, a species that treated advanced technology not as a gift from superior beings, but as a puzzle to be solved and improved upon. The galaxy was about to change, and the Confederation had just provided humanity with the tools to change it. The emergency session of the Galactic Confederation Council convened in the Grand Chamber on Nexus Prime, the capital world of their civilization. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the massive hall, their various forms creating a bizarre collection of shapes, sizes, and colors. But today, fear was the universal language that united them all. High Chancellor Vorth, an ancient being whose crystalline body had served the Confederation for over 2 centuries, called the session to order with a resonating chime. His voice echoed through translation systems as he addressed the assembly. "Fellow representatives, we face an unprecedented crisis. The species known as humans has not only refused integration, but has somehow acquired and weaponized our technology. Reports are coming in from across the galaxy of human activity, far beyond their supposed capabilities." Representative Kelm from the Vegan sector stood on his insectoid legs, antenna twitching with agitation. "High Chancellor, my systems report human vessels appearing in our space using FTL drives that outperform our own. They claim to be diplomatic envoys, but their ships carry enough firepower to level cities." "The same reports from Altair," added Representative Zara, her reptilian features flushed with concern. "But these humans aren't conquering. They're teaching. They've shown our industrial engineers how to improve our manufacturing efficiency by 40%. A murmur of confusion swept through the council chamber. This wasn't how primitive species were supposed to behave. They were supposed to be grateful for Confederation guidance, not spreading their own technological improvements. High Chancellor Vorth accessed his data systems and projected holographic displays throughout the chamber. Intelligence reports indicate that humans have made contact with 17 different member worlds in the past month. But instead of standard first contact protocols, They're sharing technology freely and teaching other species how to modify Confederation systems. Representative Tharn from the Rigel colonies, his massive frame shaking with anger, stood to address the council. This is intolerable. They're disrupting the natural order. Species are supposed to advance gradually under our guidance. These humans are accelerating development beyond safe parameters. But Representative Neela from the Centauri Federation disagreed. Her melodious voice carried across the chamber as she spoke. With respect, Representative Tharn, perhaps we should examine why our member worlds are so eager to learn from humans. The efficiency improvements they've shared with us have increased our productivity beyond anything we achieved under standard protocols. High Chancellor Vorth gestured for silence as more reports flooded in. The situation is worse than we initially understood. Humans have somehow intercepted and decoded our FTL communication networks. They've been listening to our transmissions for weeks, possibly months. The chamber erupted in concerned voices as representatives realized the implications. If humans could access their communication networks, they knew about military deployments, trade routes, internal politics, and diplomatic strategies. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Kelm. Our encryption algorithms are based on mathematical principles that should be beyond primitive comprehension. The answer came from an unexpected source. A new voice spoke through the chamber's communication system, clear and confident despite the obvious strain of addressing the galactic government. Representatives of the Galactic Confederation, this is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth. I apologize for interrupting your session, but I believe I can answer that question. Chaos erupted in the council chamber. Security protocols screamed warnings as representatives demanded to know how a human had accessed their most secure communication system. High Chancellor Vorth's crystalline form pulsed with angry red light. Dr. Chen, this is a violation of every protocol of galactic law. You will cease this transmission immediately. High Chancellor, I'm afraid I can't do that. Your council is discussing my species and our actions without including us in the conversation. That seems rather unfair. Dr. Chen's image appeared on the main holographic display. She was clearly aboard a spacecraft, but the technology visible behind her was a bewildering mix of human and Confederation designs that shouldn't have been possible to integrate. To answer Representative Kelm's question about your encryption, human mathematicians broke your codes in 6 days. Your algorithms are sophisticated but predictable. You've been using the same basic mathematical principles for centuries without innovation. Representative Tharn's voice boomed across the chamber. Impossible. Our cryptographic systems are protected by computational requirements that would take primitive computers millions of years to solve. Dr. Chen smiled, and several representatives found that expression deeply unsettling. Representative Tharn, you're assuming we used conventional computation. Human quantum computing principles combined with captured Confederation processing power gave us sufficient resources to crack your systems through parallel processing. Quantum computing? High Chancellor Vorth's voice carried a note of impossible surprise. You developed quantum computation independently? 3 different human research teams developed it independently, yes. We tend to approach problems from multiple angles simultaneously. It's more efficient than the Confederation's centralized research model. The implications of this statement sent shockwaves through the Council. If humans had developed quantum computing on their own, they weren't as primitive as initial assessments indicated. They were simply following a different technological development path. Dr. Chen, Representative Neela said carefully, what exactly do your people want? What we've wanted from the beginning, genuine partnership and cooperation. The Confederation's model treats member species as resources to be managed. We prefer to treat them as partners to be empowered. Partners? Representative Tharn scoffed. You've been in contact with galactic civilization for mere months. What could you possibly offer species that have been spacefaring for millennia? The answer came in the form of data streams that flooded Council information systems. Technical specifications, efficiency improvements, and innovation protocols that addressed problems Confederation scientists had struggled with for decades. We offer a different perspective, Dr. Chen explained as representatives studied the data in amazement. Confederation technology is impressive but stagnant. You focused on maintaining stability rather than encouraging innovation. Human engineers look at your designs and see opportunities for improvement that you've overlooked. Representative Neela examined the technical data with growing excitement. These power efficiency modifications could increase our energy output by 60% while reducing resource consumption by 30%. The manufacturing techniques could revolutionize our industrial capabilities, added Representative Kelm. How did humans develop these innovations so quickly? We didn't develop them, Dr. Chen replied. We took your existing technology and asked, how can we make this better? Humans are naturally curious about improvement and optimization. Every piece of technology we encounter becomes a challenge to enhance. High Chancellor Vorth processed this information with growing alarm. Dr. Chen, you're destabilizing the galactic order. These rapid technological changes could lead to chaos. High Chancellor, with respect, your galactic order was already unstable. It was based on artificial scarcity and technological dependence. We're simply offering an alternative, cooperative development where every species contributes their unique capabilities to common advancement. And what if species refuse this cooperation? Representative Tharn demanded. Dr. Chen's expression became serious. Then they're free to continue as they always have. We're not forcing anyone to accept our assistance, but we won't allow anyone to force us to accept artificial limitations either. As if summoned by her words, new reports flooded into the council chamber. Confederation fleets attempting to intimidate human contacted. Worlds were finding themselves facing unified defense forces using hybrid technologies that outperformed standard military equipment. The Vegan Defense Fleet reports that 3 worlds in their sector have formed a mutual defense pact, Representative Kelm announced with obvious distress. They're sharing technology and coordinating military strategies. 7 systems in the Rigel sector have declared independence from direct Confederation oversight, Representative Tharn added, his voice heavy with implications. They claim they can govern themselves more effectively with human organizational assistance. High Chancellor, Vorth realized that the Confederation faced something unprecedented in their long history. Not a military rebellion, but an ideological revolution. Humans weren't trying to conquer the galaxy. They were trying to transform it. Dr. Chen, he said finally, what do you propose? Simple, High Chancellor. Stop trying to control other species and start working with them. The galaxy is big enough for multiple approaches to civilization. But if the Confederation continues trying to suppress natural development and maintain artificial hierarchies, you'll find that more and more worlds choose cooperation over subjugation. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For the first time in millennia, the Galactic Confederation faced a challenge they couldn't solve through superior technology or military intimidation. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before humanity arrived. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terra station, watching ships from dozens of different worlds dock at the massive orbital facility. Each vessel represented a species that had chosen cooperation over subjugation, partnership over dependence. The station itself was a marvel of collaborative engineering. Human structural design principles supported Altarian energy systems, while Centauri manufacturing techniques created components using Rigelian materials science. It was everything the Confederation claimed to represent but had never actually achieved. Dr. Chen called Ambassador Martinez, the former military officer who now served as Earth's primary diplomatic representative. The morning briefing is ready. Sarah followed him to the Central Command Center, where holographic displays showed the current state of galactic civilization. The map told a story that would have been impossible to imagine just months before. Green. Indicators marked worlds that had joined the Terran Alliance, the loose confederation of species working together on the principles of shared technology and mutual cooperation. Blue indicators showed neutral worlds that maintained relations with both the Alliance and the old Confederation. Red indicators marked worlds still under traditional Confederation control. The numbers were staggering. 47 worlds had joined the Alliance. 63 had declared neutrality. Only 32 remained under direct Confederation authority, and reports suggested that several of those were reconsidering their position. Status report from the Vegan sector, Ambassador Martinez announced as various department heads gathered around the holographic display. 3 more worlds have requested Alliance membership. The Confederation fleet that was sent to intimidate them has withdrawn without engaging. Dr. Chen nodded. The pattern had repeated itself across the galaxy. Confederation forces would arrive to reassert control, only to find themselves facing planetary defense systems that incorporated human technological improvements. Rather than risk costly battles against increasingly capable opponents, Confederation commanders were choosing strategic withdrawal. "What about the refugee situation?" Sarah asked. Commander Santos, now in charge of Alliance military coordination, gestured to a section of the display. 17,000 Confederation citizens have requested asylum in Alliance space. Most are scientists, engineers, and technicians who want to work in an environment that encourages innovation rather than conformity. Among these refugees was former Regional Administrator Thex, who now worked as a technical consultant for the Alliance. His insights into Confederation administrative practices had proven invaluable in helping newly independent worlds establish effective governments. The former administrator's latest report on Confederation governance is particularly interesting, Dr. Chen noted. He's identified 47 different suppression protocols they use to prevent member worlds from developing advanced technology independently, protocols we've been systematically dismantling, added Dr. Yamamoto, the Chief Technology Officer for the Alliance. Every Confederation suppression technique we've encountered has a human countermeasure. Our engineering teams treat their limitations as puzzles to solve. But the Alliance's greatest advantage wasn't technological, it was philosophical. Where the Confederation maintained order through control and hierarchy, the Alliance encouraged development through collaboration and shared knowledge. Species that had been technological vassals for centuries were suddenly discovering their own capacity for innovation. Incoming transmission from High Chancellor. Fourth, announced the communications officer. The elderly crystalline being appeared on the main display, his form dulled and cracked with what looked like exhaustion. Behind him, the Confederation Council chamber was notably emptier than it had been during their previous communications. Dr. Chen, Fourth began without preamble. The Confederation Council wishes to open formal negotiations regarding the current galactic situation. Sarah exchanged glances with her advisors before responding. High Chancellor, we're always willing to discuss peaceful solutions. What did you have in mind? A partition agreement? The Confederation will recognize Alliance sovereignty over systems that have formally joined your organization. In exchange, the Alliance will cease efforts to recruit additional Confederation member worlds. The proposal was reasonable by traditional diplomatic standards, but Sarah knew it missed the fundamental point. High Chancellor, we're not recruiting anyone. We're simply offering an alternative approach to galactic civilization. Species are free to choose whichever system works best for them. Your alternative approach is destroying the stability that has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years, Fourth replied, his crystalline form pulsing with frustrated energy. With respect, High Chancellor, that stability was built on suppression and artificial scarcity. The peace you maintained was the peace of subjugation. We're offering the possibility of genuine cooperation. Commander Santos stepped forward. High Chancellor, we've captured and analyzed 17 Confederation military vessels. Your technology is impressive, but it's also predictable. You've built your entire civilization around maintaining the status quo. When faced with rapid adaptation and innovation, your systems can't keep up. It was a harsh truth, but accurate. Confederation technology was designed for stability and control, not for responding to unexpected challenges. Human technology, evolved through centuries of conflict and competition, was specifically designed to adapt and overcome obstacles. What exactly are you proposing? Fourth asked. Dr. Chen gestured to the galactic map. We're not proposing anything, High Chancellor. We're simply demonstrating that there are alternatives to the Confederation model. Some species prefer your approach, stable, predictable, centrally managed. Others prefer our approach, dynamic, innovative, collaborative. The galaxy is big enough for both, and if conflicts arise between our different approaches, then we'll handle them the same way humans have always handled conflicts, through negotiation, innovation, and adaptation. But High Chancellor, consider this. In 6 months of Alliance expansion, how many worlds have we conquered militarily? Fourth was silent for a moment. None, he admitted. Exactly. We don't expand through conquest. We expand through example. Every world that joins the Alliance does so voluntarily, because they see the benefits of cooperation over subjugation. The transmission continued for another hour, But Sarah knew the real conversation was already over. The Confederation was faced with a choice that went against everything they had built their civilization around: adapt or become irrelevant. 3 days later, the choice became clear. High Chancellor Vorth submitted his resignation to the Confederation Council, citing irreconcilable philosophical differences with traditional governance models. He was the 5th high-ranking Confederation official to resign in the past month. Former Administrator Thex, reviewing the news from his new office aboard Terra Station, shook his bulbous head in amazement. Dr. Chen, in 40 years of Confederation service, I never saw a single high official resign on principle. Your species has changed the entire nature of galactic politics. Sarah smiled as she watched another group of ships from newly independent worlds dock at the station. Administrator Thex, we didn't change galactic politics. We just showed other species that they had choices they didn't know existed. And what happens now? Now we keep doing what humans have always done. We adapt, we innovate, and we help others do the same. The Confederation can maintain their traditional approach for species that prefer stability, but for species that want to grow and develop, the Alliance will be here. 1 year after first contact, the galaxy had split into 2 distinct civilizations. The old Confederation, smaller but still stable, maintained traditional hierarchical governance for species that preferred security over innovation. The Terran Alliance, growing rapidly, offered collaborative development for species willing to embrace change and growth. The aliens had made one fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had assumed that being deadly meant being destructive. They never anticipated that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their capacity for violence. It was their ability to show others how to reach their full potential. Commander Zefak, now serving as a cultural liaison between the 2 civilizations, often reflected on that first day of contact. The humans had tried to warn them in their own way. Every question about autonomy and cooperation had been a hint about their true nature. But the Confederation had been so certain of their own superiority that they had missed the warning signs. Dr. Chen's final log entry summed up the transformation perfectly. The Confederation feared that humans would upset the galactic order. They were right. We did upset it. We replaced their order based on control with our order based on cooperation. The galaxy is no longer a hierarchy of species managed by a central authority. It's become a community of civilizations working together toward common goals. And that, she concluded, is exactly what the galaxy needed. The revolution was complete, but it had been won not through conquest or destruction, but through the simple human belief that everyone deserved the chance to become their best possible.